I call the member for Isaacs.
Deputy Speaker, I welcome the opportunity to rise today to speak on one more desperate attempt by those opposite to maintain their debunked campaign of fear, their debunked campaign of negativity, their debunked campaign that is crumbling with their crumbling credibility. In fact, it is not crumbling, it has crumbled. And if it hadn't crumbled before this afternoon, it has crumbled now that we have heard from the member for New England. And I hope that those opposite listened to what the Leader of the Opposition did when he was negotiating so that you could form government after the last election. You need to bear in mind that we had, after the last election, a hung parliament in this place. We needed to form a government, as the Constitution requires, and all members of this parliament participated in what is called a negotiation. And in that negotiation, as the member for New England has explained, and I hope you're all listening, as the member for New England explained, your leader, the man that took the leadership of your party by one vote, the man that took the leadership of your party was prepared to do anything. He was prepared to do anything, including putting a price on carbon, including introducing a carbon tax. Anything means anything, and it is quite clear to us here, and it should be clear to you, what the Leader of the Opposition was prepared to do. And we have rarely seen in Australia's political history an opportunist, a political opportunist of the character of the present Leader of the Opposition, who ought to be apologising to the Australian people for the deceit, nearly 2 years of deceit we've had from him now, where he's raised false claims, made appalling misrepresentations, not just about what happened in that negotiation that he was conducting with the member for New England, but about every single aspect of the price on carbon. Well might he have been prepared, well might this Leader of the Opposition have been prepared to agree to put a price on carbon, because he, along with every other Liberal leader, has supported a price on carbon, has supported an emissions trading scheme. Those opposite who came to the election in 2007 will recall, I know you want to blot it out of your minds, but they need all to recall, Deputy Speaker, that they supported an emissions trading scheme at the 2007 election. They supported an emissions trading scheme that would by now be in place had John Howard won that election, which of course he did not, and that support for an emissions trading scheme continued, Deputy Speaker, from those opposite right up to the time when the present Leader of the Opposition, with his campaign of untruths and misrepresentations, became leader at the end of November 2009. And since then, this country has had to endure rubbish day after day, nonsensical statements made about the climate science, nonsensical statements made about the effect of an emissions trading scheme, that is recognised by economists around the world, recognised by the OECD, recognised by the IMF, recognised by the 32 countries in Western Europe as the least cost, most effective means to reduce carbon pollution. And those opposite actually know, those that have got any economic literacy know, and that's not very many of them, Deputy Speaker, but they know that the right way to go is putting a price on carbon together with a range of complementary programs. That was the position that the Liberal Party of Australia had in 2007. It remained the position of the Liberal Party of Australia right through to the end of November, and it will again be the position of the Liberal Party of Australia, because countries around the world, most notably countries to whom we are very culturally close, like New Zealand or the United Kingdom, part of the Anglosphere that the Leader of the Opposition likes to speak of, they have reached a bipartisan agreement on emissions trading. And the result of them reaching that bipartisan agreement on emissions trading is that, rightly, it has become a third or fourth order issue, because it's just part of the economic machinery of their countries that has put their countries on the lowering trajectory, of carbon pollution, which is where we need to go. This Leader of the Opposition has wasted years of Australian political debate on putting forward false claims about the effect of pricing carbon, about the effect of this mechanism, about indeed the scheme that we announced we were going to introduce on the 10th of July last year, which we have now legislated for and which has come into force, I'm very pleased to say, Deputy Speaker, on the 1st of July. And what have we seen since the 1st of July? We have not seen the wrecking ball going through the Australian economy that was threatened by the Leader of the Opposition, who probably wishes that there was a wrecking ball. Indeed, we see the desperateness. We've seen it just now from the Leader of the National Party. They are desperate to see price rises. They are desperate to see economic damage so as to make good the false claims that they have been making now for nearly 2 years, and they are not going to see them. That's why we published, Deputy Speaker, the most detailed economic modelling that the Treasury of our country has ever undertaken, which we published in conjunction with the details of the scheme in July last year. That economic modelling showed with extraordinary clarity what was going to be the predicted rises of electricity, what were going to be the predicted price rises for gas, what were going to be the predicted price rises for food and other items in the economy. And those predictions, now that we have the carbon price in place as of the 1st of July, those predictions have come to pass, Deputy Speaker. We see electricity prices as predicted in the order of 10%, except in Tasmania where they are considerably lower. We see gas price rises of about 8% as predicted, and most importantly we see the cost of living with a price rise of less than 1 cent in the dollar. The prediction, of course, by Treasury was 0.7%. And so far, 6 weeks in, there is nothing, much to the regret of those opposite, there is nothing that suggests that the modelled outcomes of the carbon price are anything other than accurate. We've got a Leader of the Opposition saying that he wanted to say that the carbon price would be like a cobra strike. And then when that tag failed to stick, when he realised that was going to be nonsense because there wasn't going to be anything happening, he now wants to say, well, it's sort of something you can't really see. He wants to call it a python squeeze. That's yet another untrue claim, and that's the problem that the opposition has got. Month by month by month, it is going to be seen that these endless false claims that they've now made since the Leader of the Opposition became Leader at the end of November 2009 are false. They are false. They will not be borne out by what is going to happen in the Australian economy. They are not being borne out now, and that's why I say, and I'll repeat the request, I've got little hope that the Leader of the Opposition is going to meet this request, but the Leader of the Opposition and his colleagues, I'd include in this the member for Flinders, owe the Australian people an apology, in fact quite a big apology, for the misleading claims, for the scaring of people, particularly needy and vulnerable people in the community who they've been going around scaring, saying, for example, the carbon price, here's one, the carbon price would hurt older people. Now the fact is, Deputy Speaker, pensioners and self-funded retirees will get an increase in support each year under the government's household assistance package, and it's assistance that this Leader of the Opposition and those opposite would rip away by cutting family payments and pensions if they get elected. We've had the Leader of the Opposition saying that there would be no compensation for small business. And in fact, Deputy Speaker, small businesses will benefit from a $6,500 instant asset tax write-off, which they will be able to make multiple times, as well, of course, as a $40 million energy efficiency program. And, of course, again, there's a benefit for small business, Deputy Speaker, that this Leader of the Opposition opposes. He opposes this ability by small business to claim $6,500 instant asset tax write-offs. The Leader of the Opposition has said here's another good one, we won't be able to get on a bus or a train ultimately to drive our cars without being impacted by the tax. I can hardly read it out with a straight face, Deputy Speaker, because it is so laughable. So I'll just repeat the facts for what feels like the umpteenth time. In fact, There is no carbon price on fuel used by household cars or light commercial vehicles. I don't know what can't be understood about that. I'll repeat it for the benefit of those opposite. There is no carbon price on fuel used by household cars or light commercial vehicles, none, and buses using less polluting fuels, LPG, LNG, biofuels, will not face a carbon price. We've got similar claims in the transport area about farms, Deputy Speaker. The Leader of the Opposition has said that every farm uses fuel for its trucks and all of that is going to be hit by the carbon tax. Now, in fact, I'll just state some facts for the member for Flinders. Farmers will not pay a cent. Agriculture is exempt. Agriculture is exempt.
Order.
Listen to the chorus of the nonsense
Order.
and the further misrepresentations that those opposite would wish to make. Not
Order.
1 cent. Not
Order.
1 cent of... Not
Member
1 cent
Isaacs.
of carbon price for off-road agricultural vehicles, not for farmers' cars, not for farmers' utes, not for light trucks. And we've got...
Order. Member for Isaacs. I will remove you from the chamber if you don't desist. And are you sitting in your proper seat?
Now, the member for Parkes wants to repeat the misrepresentations that he's been running around his electorate, Deputy Speaker. Misrepresentations, false claims that he's been tricking and deceiving the people in his electorate with for month after month after month. And he should join the apology that the Leader of the Opposition needs to make to the Australian people, a very serious apology. It's an apology that is due because deceiving farmers, deceiving older people, deceiving needy and vulnerable people in our community warrants an apology when the claims are shown to be false, as they have been shown to be false. These claims have gone on and on. We had 12 months ago, and he's repeated this several times, the Leader of the Opposition saying that the carbon price would send grocery prices up 5%. That's linked to this other claim that we get that it's going to go up and up and up and up. Get this. Last month's TDI Securities Melbourne Institute report found food prices were unaffected. Not much to not understand about that. Unaffected by the introduction of the carbon price. We've said, now I'll just come to, right, we've had members opposite bleating about electricity prices now because the Leader of the Opposition wanted, and those opposite wanted, Deputy Speaker, to say that the carbon price would lead to massive increases in power prices. We've heard that language, and that's because the opposition, including particularly the member for Parkes, who's been misleading the farmers in his electorate about this, the opposition hoped I will come. I'm very happy to go to Parkes, Deputy Speaker. I've been everywhere in the country explaining the misrepresentations that have been made by those opposite. The opposition hoped to blame all electricity price rises on the carbon price, knowing that that is not true. It is true, Deputy Speaker, that the average electricity bill went up by approximately 50% in the last 4 years. There has been a massive increase in electricity costs in our country, but it's been caused by other things. It hasn't been caused by the carbon price, and it couldn't have been caused by the carbon price because the carbon price only came in on the 1st of July. As the Prime Minister has said, Deputy Speaker, the most important driver of rising electricity prices is investment in network infrastructure and not the carbon price. And just to repeat a few more facts, Deputy Speaker, without taking into account the modest impact of carbon pricing, electricity prices in New South Wales have increased by almost 70% since 2008, while they have increased by over 60% in South Australia and Western Australia. And in New South Wales, the O'Farrell government is taking 60% larger dividends than the previous state government, Deputy Speaker. I'm not for a moment suggesting that there were not dividends taken by the previous Labor state government in New South Wales, but this present O'Farrell government, the Liberal government in New South Wales, is taking 60% larger dividends. This government is also taking $587 million in tax-equivalent payments from the same businesses, bringing the total money grab of Premier O'Farrell to around $570 for every household in New South Wales.
Shame.
Tony, the Leader of the Opposition does put great faith in the unique brand of economics practiced by the Shadow Treasurer, hockeynomics, perhaps more even aptly described as sloppynomics, but even he would understand that $570 is a larger number than zero and represents a massive gouge on the people of New South Wales.
The member's time has expired.